Grouping by Whitney Adams. What is grouping? Grouping, also known as tracking, is the practice of grouping children together according to their talents in the classroom. Now, in theory, ability grouping increases student achievement by reducing the variety in the ability levels of the students, which increases the likelihood that teachers can provide the best amount and type of instruction based on the level of the group. The assumption is that it allows the teacher to increase the pace and raise the level of instruction for high achievers, and to provide more individual attention, repetition, and review for low achievers. The high achievers benefit from having to compete with one another, and the low achievers benefit from not having to compete with their more able peers. Now, according to the National Education Association, these students are given labels that stay with them as they move from grade to grade. For those on the lower tracks, a steady diet of lower expectations may lead to a low level of motivation towards school. A similar and opposite reaction occurs with the students on the higher tracks. They've been challenged and therefore motivated to continue to learn and to improve. The two types of groupings are within class grouping and between class grouping. Within class grouping is the teacher's practice of putting students of a similar ability into small groups for subjects similar to reading or math instruction. This is usually only utilized in the younger grades, and students are grouped based on their ability level, and each group receives appropriate instruction and challenges. Our textbook states that in reading, teachers typically have each group working at a different point in a series of texts and allows each group to proceed at their own pace. Research has suggested that there is a high achievement level among all students that takes place within this type of grouping, not just in the upper level groups. In addition, researchers found that teachers that often grouped and regrouped according to the needs of the students allowed them much higher learning outcomes than those that did not. In addition, our textbook reported that with this type of grouping, students were not stigmatized by their placement in the groups that is obvious between class groupings. Between class grouping. It is a teacher's practice of putting students of similar ability into small groups, but it is subject-based. So if a student excels in reading but struggles in math, he or she will be placed in the respective group to receive instruction catered to his or her abilities. This type of grouping normally takes place in junior high and high school. For example, some students in the same grade will be placed into Algebra 1, while others may test into being placed in Algebra 2 or Geometry. The advantage to using this system is that each student has a catered class schedule that is based on their individual needs of each subject. For example, the students that are placed into the Algebra 1 class would suffer if they were placed into Algebra 2 because they've not demonstrated that they have the prior knowledge necessary for that class. One of the bigger arguments against this practice is that it creates classes or groups of low achievers who are deprived of the example and stimulation provided by the higher achievers. Labeling students according to ability and assigning them to low achieving groups may also communicate low expectations for them. Critics argue that groups with low performance could receive a lower quality of instruction than the higher level groups. Untracking. These two different ways of grouping has been challenged as of late by educators and researchers. They've turned to untracking, which is the process of placing students in different abilities into the same groups but still maintaining high standards. The groups are given many different ways to reach their goals, including extra assistance, according to our textbook. It also mentions that with a decent amount of cooperative learning and project-based approaches, it allows students to reach their fullest and highest potential without any type of grouping necessary.